whatever you wind up doing is exactly what you should be doing.
And I have not behaved one single day of my life. Not one day of my life have I behaved, and I am fine.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're going to hurt some people.
Whose car are we going to take?
Good morning, and thank you for joining us. I guess whatever time you happen to be watching the show. This is the Nikki Medoro Show with myself and Kim McAllister. Hello. And thank you to everybody that's been here so early. I think one of the favorite things I do right when I log into the thing is to see everybody already in the chat, drinking their coffee, debating some of the topics that we have coming up. And even, look at this, Kim. John's already donated $10
wow.
to the
That's
show.
Nice.
Doug's already donated
$5
to the show. You guys.
So nice.
I honestly, like, and I know we say this every day, but I can't say it anymore. I have to say it all the time. We can't do this without you. And you guys in this community that it warms my heart that we're like the first thing that people probably do, especially if you're on the West Coast in the morning. So I love you guys. I love you guys. I love you guys. Thank you very much. I'm excited about today's show. And as I was prepping yesterday, Kim, I got even more excited. I had told you about this gentleman yesterday. His name is Kevin Adler. He's the head of a nonprofit called Miracle Messages. And what Miracle Messages does is basically Kevin went out and talked to homeless people on the street and basically said, is there anyone in your family that you'd like to send a message to? And he has reunited families. And so he's going to tell the story of, there was this one gentleman, Jeffrey, who he ended up finding. Like, it moved me so much. Like in the story, Kevin says, he was walking by and he made a commitment to interact with the homeless people who sometimes don't seem like they want to talk to you, right? Mm-hmm. And so he saw this guy, Jeffrey, and he was like, I'm going to say something. And he's like, how are you? How are you doing? What is your name? And he was and Jeffrey was given like one-word answers. And then he just basically asked him, he's like, is there anybody that you want to reach? And like all of a sudden, Jeffrey looked up and he's like, my dad. I haven't seen my sisters and my nieces in so long. And so he gave him his hometown. Kevin went on Facebook, the power of social media. This is always a good example of social media and of finding, this guy's family. And so that's what Miracle Messages is. But Kevin is out with this new book called When We Walk By, where he really scratches way below the surface of what we can do to help the unhoused, what the housed people do, right and wrong. And so I'm really looking forward to the conversation. That is in the second part of the show. I did want to show you really quickly, though. This is his book. And I'm really looking forward to the conversation. We talk about homelessness a lot on this show, what we do right, what we do wrong. I mean, we were talking just yesterday. I was seeing it in the news again today that San Francisco is like that close to losing the funding that's supposed to help with affordable housing because they are nowhere close to meeting their affordable housing goal. I had to do a double take, Kim. 84,000 housing units. San Francisco is supposed to build within like the next 5 years. Like, we're nowhere close to doing something like that. I'm not quite sure where they're supposed to go. But again, you lose the funding. You also lose a lot of the power. The builder's remedy kicks in. So we'll see, kind of what happens there. And I'll talk to Kevin about it. When you talk to people that are at ground level, that are talking to these people, they can bring a different perspective than I think some of us, and I know some of you guys work within the homeless or the nonprofit community that help these people, but there could be such a kind of a disconnect, a separation, and it's hard. So we'll be having that conversation coming up. I did want to mention some different news before we get to the headlines, and I'm sure Kim's following this in the news. The Oakland Bees. I mean,
I know, I saw that.
Okay, first off, what do you think of the name? I mean, because it was the Oakland A's and then the Oakland Bees. I understand it's for ballers, right? But I was cracking up. I'm like, are we going down the alphabet? Is this what
That's
we're doing?
What we're
right
doing.
Now? That's what we're doing right
obviously that was a play on it, right? The Oakland A's, the Oakland Bees. Is their mascot going to be a little bumblebee? I don't know.
Oh, that's a good question. What is it going to be? Here's a little news report. I wanted to show it to you really quickly from NBC Bay Area, just about the fact that Oakland is getting a team that they claim will never leave the city.
You coming, baby?
Keeping baseball in Oakland, that's the plan.
Oakland needs a new baseball team.
Still sporting green and gold, a group of A's fans turned team founders are launching the Oakland Ballers, or the B's for short. Their mission is simple: play ball and put the community first.
Nobody gets to decide what happens to that story, certainly not one team. If that goes away, it needs to be replaced by something different, something better. And what we want to replace it with is an organization that just has different values.
Team founders Paul Friedman and Brian Carmel, longtime friends and A's fans, named the independent team the Ballers in memory of their friend who passed away, whose nickname was Baller. The Bees will join the Pioneer League next season, becoming its first West Coast franchise. The season will start next year while the A's are still playing in Oakland.
We felt strongly that we wanted to provide an alternative to the fan base here and really come out the gates, explaining what we're about, which is a team that's made up of, locals, that's built by the community and for the community.
Inspired by the Sell movement and reverse boycott, where tens of thousands of fans fought to keep the A's in Oakland. The Ballers partnered with the Oakland 68s with a focus to create a team that never leaves Oakland.
Being loud for our city, for our team, and I think that's what we're going to bring, and baseball fans want it.
The Bees plan to play at Laney College, where they held a press conference today. Mayor Sheng Tao, other elected leaders, and Oakland rapper Mr. Fab showed their support.
And I would love to bring this team to replace those traitors. But I would also love to come back and deeply invest in our children and our youth. And when they said that they were with that, that's what we want to do.
The Bees are gearing up for tryouts early next year. The team has raised $2 million in funding. They're also launching a crowdfunding initiative to allow anyone to become part owner. A team's mission of looking beyond home plate to impact players and fans.
What we want to do is build this to be the biggest thing that it can for the Oakland community. And together with the support of the fans and the rest of Oaklanders, we're confident we can do that.
So what do you think? I mean, I'm really optimistic. I love the fact, if you caught it right there, where they want to launch it while the A's are still in town. Like, you don't need to go watch. And it's the Raiders that are the traitors, by the way, but I understand what they're saying about the A's. But yeah, there's an alternative for these people that want to see professional baseball. Obviously, this is an expansion team, but it does seem to me that this is what's needed to show John Fisher and all those asshats, all the Major League Baseball owners, that Oakland is a town that can support a professional sports team.
But it's not going to be. I mean, there's no money behind it, really, right? I mean, how are they going to afford to pay real players, and how are they going to have a salary? This is,
Oh, so you're not very optimistic about this, is what I'm hearing.
Well, I mean, it's hard to get something off the ground without a gazillion dollars in your pocket like this. You have to have big money.
But think in mind, they're in the Bay Area. They have a lot of people that are pissed at the A's. Now, the Bees will be the first West Coast team to join the Pioneer League. It's an independent baseball league that's separate from the Major League Baseball.
All right.
Again, they're going to have their debut season next spring. Let's see. So apparently, the one of the people behind it said, following the June 13th game, when fans turned out for the reverse boycott, they knew they had to act, and they witnessed how Oakland fans were part of the heart of the city. So I feel like if you can, now is the time to tap into that passion, right? That anger is when Oakland A's are leaving. People are going to be like, screw them. And they might donate a lot of things. And again, remember, they just said it. You can own part of the team. That's very attractive to people.
Yeah, you might
that
be
want to
right.
be part of something, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I get it, Ricky. It's about the money. I feel like when we talk about sports teams, there is just this unwavering loyalty. Even if you suck, right? Even if you suck, there is this unwavering loyalty. My brother knows this very well. He is a Jets fan and they suck. It's hard. I was watching who was interviewing him? I forget who was interviewing Bradley Cooper. I saw this yesterday, actually. And he's like, the question of Bradley Cooper, who's an actor, of course, and a director. He's like, you could win an Oscar, right? And so could Carey Mulligan, right? For actor and director. And Carey Mulligan wins an Oscar. Or the Philadelphia Eagles can win the Super Bowl. He's like, the Super Bowl. Like, didn't even freaking hesitate. Like, people have this unwavering loyalty when their team is their team. And I think that if you can tap into that passion of losing a team while it's happening, while it's going on, I think a lot of money, a lot of funding can go to support the Oakland Bees. So, their phrase right here, built by Oakland, for Oakland, forever Oakland. I think that if that's what you're basing your whole team on, they're not leaving. And again, yes, I know it's the Pioneer League. It's not Major League Baseball, but you never know. This could start something. And I don't know. I feel happy for those fans, those Oakland A fans that are just so devastated by this, I mean, the Raiders left, but we still have the Niners.
Well, they're not taking it lying down, which is nice. Right?
Exactly. Oh, it's Square. Oh, hold on. Square says it'd be good to see the Ballers play the San Jose Giants. Now, I don't know the league things. Again, I'm not a baseball person.
Well, don't we also have like a Napa Grape Stompers or Grape Crushers or something?
I don't know. Does anybody know about these kind of expansion teams? I'll look it up. When you do your headlines and get more details about who's in what league. Because I know that the Giants, I mean, they're the team that funnels into the actual, San Francisco Giants. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if it works the same way with the Oakland Bees. Where would they go? I don't know. I don't think that they would go to the Giants since it's not the exact same league, but we'll see. Save the Bleachers band, the A's Bleachers band. That would be awesome. And Calvin, excellent point. I will say, I'm just going to throw out a number. Within the last 5 years, I've gone to way more San Jose Giants games than San Francisco Giants games. Well, it's in San Jose. You know what I mean? Like, I just go down there. It's by San Jose State University. It's got a great ballpark. What's it called? Excite? No, it's not called Excite. I forget what it's called. It's a great ballpark. You can sit anywhere. My husband loves to sit, what is that, on the right fielder side, I guess, and just like kind of heckle the other team. Funny. My son's caught balls, there. One hit him in the head, but he got it.
Oh, God.
It was funny, though. It didn't hurt him. Just kind of bounced and hit him in the head. But it's a great time, and it's easy, and it's cheap. And oftentimes during the summer, they have fireworks every night. So it's a great time. It's totally affordable. You can go to the grocery store and get, like, free tickets, right? It's so fun. And, and they do have good barbecue, Jim. They do. Like, huge, like, picnic table where you get tons of barbecue, and it's a good time. So I would just say this could be really good for Oakland.
Speaking of sports stories. Front and center this morning on TMZ, not that that's the first place I go, but I happened upon it.
Okay.
Is this story about a little kid at the Kansas City Chiefs game who decided to put on face paint and a headdress. Okay, so it's Kansas City Chiefs, right?
Yeah. Oh.
Outrage over the headdress and the face paint.
I mean, the face paint, I don't really care about. It's the colors. It's not all black. Let's just say that. The headdress, that's problematic. Although they are called the Chiefs now. Is that it? But do they have any sort of Native American?
I think that's why they're the Chiefs.
But in their logo, they don't, right?
No, I don't think so.
So it doesn't seem appropriate to. I mean, because
their logo is just the KC, right?
Yeah, right. So it's not as if.
So the kid's mom is now coming to his defense, saying everyone who's hating on him can kick rocks. She says that he is part Native American. And so,
okay, he doesn't look it, but okay.
But all right. She says the face paint was both black and red in order to match the team. As for the headdress, she said, this boy is Native American. People are ridiculous. And she said everyone was asking to take pictures with him. Here he is with, I guess the Raiders cheerleaders were asking to take pictures with him. So there he is with his face paint and his
he made out, right? I mean, he made out. I just, here's the thing. I've come to, and you can tell me if I'm wrong to do this, Kim, and everybody in the comments. I'm trying to temper my outrage when it has nothing to do with me. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Is anyone from the Native American community outraged? And if you are, and you can explain it to me. And I mean, this is a little kid. Do I think that he means harm to the Native Americans? I honestly don't. right?
No, but his parents should know better. Although his dad says he is just the biggest fan of the Chiefs. He is a huge Chiefs fan. And,
I think the face paint could have been enough, though. I don't think you need the headdress, especially because it's not part of the logo, right? Like, it's not like you're dressing up like the logo. You're just bringing into the Chiefs thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Redskins obviously aren't the Redskins anymore. They're just the Washington team. Nationals? Are they Nationals? Yeah. Because they were the Washington team, the Acme team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they became the Nationals. It's going to be a slow pull out of all of this sort of antiquated naming for things, the Chiefs, the Indians, the Redskins, things like that. But again, am I going to speak out about something that I don't know how offended Native Americans are when this happens, right? I know how it looks. I think that you should default to not doing it, right? The appropriation part of it all. But again, there are real things to be outraged about. And I think a little kid wearing a headdress, probably not in the best taste. But maybe I'm wrong. Oh, Commanders. Thank you. It was the Washington Commanders.
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
Washington Nationals are a team, though. You are correct, but it's not. It's not the football team. I don't know. I feel like in this day and age, we can't be outraged about everything. And do we really need to pick on a little kid? That's my whole thing. Like, if you want to pick on the parents, I guess you could. But I would just, when in doubt, don't do it. That's my rule. Like, if you're even questioning a little bit, like, is this kind of offensive? Just don't do it. It's 2023. People will choose to be offended about things, even if it has nothing to do with them. Ricky says it's dishonorable to display the headdress without ceremony. Okay, it looks like a real one, too. That's a good point. It looks, I don't know, real. It just could be a really good fake. Well, if it's his, what if it's his? What if somebody, if he's Native American and somebody gave it to him, is he allowed to wear it?
I mean, you would think that if you are a Native American person, that you understand what the symbolism of the headdress would be, and you would treat it with respect and reverence, and maybe not wear it to a Kansas City Chiefs game. I mean, that would be my thought.
That would be my thought.
If you have something of cultural and religious significance to your tribe, to your culture, then you're not the one, using it for picture taking opportunities at a game.
But if it's yours, who gets to decide that? You
do.
Or the public, right?
You absolutely do.
So that's what I'm saying. I'm like, you know what? And again, nobody is directly being hurt. Like, he's not beating anybody up with his headdress or anything like that. Like, if Native Americans want to speak out about children that are of Native American descent wearing a headdress to an American football game, you have a right to speak on it, right? Like, but if you're just a keyboard warrior and you see a little kid with a headdress on, you don't know anything about this kid, maybe just keep scrolling. I don't know. Is that am I being like too light on this? I don't know. No, you think I should be louder about it?
I don't know. Yeah.
Ricky thinks that it was purchased.
I think people find anything they want to anything to be outraged about. Right.
That's my point. Like, is this the top issue of the day? A kid wearing a headdress that who knows where it came from? Who knows what descent he is? But
was it disrespectful to his culture if he is truly a Native American?
He's gonna have
probably.
He'll have to hear from his, his ancestors or his family if it was really offensive. But again, again, there are so many things I want to choose to like be out. There are so many things that are valid to be outraged about. He can hear it from his family. You know what I mean?
Who's not commenting? Kansas City Chiefs.
See, they're taking my advice. Like, you know what? We're just not going to even say anything about it.
We're not going to say anything on this one.
Our logo for a reason, people. You know what I mean? Like, we just don't even need to do that.
It seems like the parents are making the biggest deal out of it. It's almost like they knew, right?
They were going to get crap. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then to put your kid in the middle of some controversy like this, it's like, really? Come on, you guys.
I don't know about that. Exactly. That's a great point. All right. Let's do some other headlines, and then when we come back, it's a bit rich. Kim touched on this yesterday, but more reaction is coming into the fact that the House Oversight or House Republicans have denied Hunter Biden's request to publicly testify, and I love the fact that everyone's like, well, he has a subpoena, he has to talk. Has anybody told Jim Jordan that? Because Jim Jordan has a subpoena sitting on his desk that he refuses to come and discuss. So the hypocrisy within the Republican Party is insane. Also coming up, again, Kevin Adler in the second part of the show. And Calvin, you sent me the story, and I saw this as well yesterday. Would you give your dog the loves, the ones that hold your heart, right? I mean, I just love my dog. Would you give your dog a drug in order for them to live longer? Like, there's nothing wrong with them, right? It's just that, some breeds, they don't live as long as others. Would you give your dog a drug to help them live longer? And what is the kind of morality surrounding that, right? We'll talk about all of that. But before we do, let's get some business out of the way. You guys, please, if you haven't yet, click the thumbs up right below the screen to show your support for the show. It helps us out on YouTube. They love it. The algorithm loves it. The super chat is live, and thank you to people that have already donated. John with $10, first in with the donation, and then Doug with $5 super sticker. Thank you. And then Harry, $5 donation. Work from home Wednesday. Woohoo! Woo! Life is good, and MAGA dating is an oxymoron. Oh, thank you for bringing that up. There was an op-ed in the Washington Post. That's what Harry's referencing, and we'll get to it also today, where they're like, the reason why marriage is in trouble is because women don't want to date MAGA men. Because it's always the woman's fault, right? It's always on us. Like, why don't you just suck it up and marry a MAGA? I think the bigger issue is, do people want to marry outside their political affiliation? It used to be religion, right? It used to be even race. But now it's politics. Like, how much of your identity is your political leaning? So much so that you would continue swiping if you found out somebody was MAGA or Democrat or whatever.
There's a difference if you married someone and then your politics diverge, right? And for some reason, they become a MAGA person. And so you learn to live with them. And
they go absolutely freaking insane.
But you find a balance and you figure it out. And, you share more in common or more history than just the whole MAGA thing, right? So you figure out a way around it. Versus if you're just trying to meet someone to maybe have a relationship with, and they're MAGA from the get-go. And you think to yourself, perhaps,
do I need to do this?
Do I want to end up with a bonehead? No, I don't. I don't.
Also, what does it say about you as a person? Like, what does it say about your values? What you believe on certain issues. If you're not just Republican, like, I'm not saying Republican, okay? People can be Republican, conservative, whatever. I'm talking about MAGA. Like, I do not need that nonsense coming into my bedroom. No, thank you. No, thank you. So we'll talk about that in depth. We'll get some of your comments about that as well. Also, you guys, please sign up for our monthly Patreon. It is what keeps this show going. I just got a letter from Karen, who lives in Asia, and was it Taiwan, I think she said, or Japan? And she listened. She's like, I love listening to your guys' show. It brings a little piece of home, and I love hearing from all of you. So again, please support the show. Let's keep this going. TheNikkiMedoroShow.com is where you can find the Patreon link. It's also in the show notes, which I apologize, guys. I just realized yesterday the links I put in my show notes were not complete. I was cutting and pasting them from something and it wasn't complete. So if you hit a error page all this time, I apologize. I have fixed as many as I can, but the ones in this show notes are current. So that just go there. Our Patreon link is also there if you want to go directly, and please donate to the show. It's just a one payment a month and it really helps us out. PayPal also takes the least amount from us. So if you want to PayPal us money, just go to paypal.com, hit send money, and the email is TheNikkiMedoroShow@gmail.com. Another way to support the show, visit the merch shop, TheNikkiMedoroShop.com. Not only is there show merch, but I've created some fun t-shirts and things like that you can also buy. And then, of course, my list of favorite things I keep adding to every single day. There's more stuff on there as well. Somebody bought the bidet. I'm not going to go into the bidet conversation, but somebody bought the bidet.
All right.
And let me know. I love you. It's so funny. And so the link to my favorite things is also in the show notes. Okay, guys, let's do some headlines and then so much more right after Kim's news.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
The Prime Minister of Israel says his country will continue fighting after the country's ceasefire deal with Hamas ends. In a speech, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called the release of dozens of hostages held by Hamas a great achievement, but said his answer is an unequivocal yes if Israel will return to fighting. The truce deal between Israel and Hamas is set to expire today after being extended for 2 days. House Republicans are ramping up their impeachment inquiry into President Biden. Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer told reporters today several committees will interview members of the Biden family and their associates over the next few months. He said he'd welcome Hunter Biden to testify publicly at a future date. And House Speaker Mike Johnson is talking about having real reservations about expelling New York Republican George Santos, pictured here, from Congress. Yeah, Johnson told reporters today he's concerned about the precedent it would set, given Santos has not yet been convicted of a crime. A third expulsion vote will take place this week after Representative Robert Garcia introduced a resolution on the House floor on Tuesday.
Oh, okay. I think I did hear a quote from him today about this, and he was basically saying the precedent it sets because you're expelling people that have not been convicted of a crime. I understand that because of how politics are nowadays, right? But this guy, there's no question he lied. He admitted that. I think the lying part we really need to get a hold on. The blatant, we know politicians lie. Let's not mess around.
Yeah.
But it is the obvious, the blatant. And I will add this, the fact that he ran on these lies, right? The way he used those campaign funds. I know the conviction hasn't happened yet, but what kind of precedent does it set if you continue to allow him to stay? Just because expelling is one precedent, so is allowing him to stay after all of this. So I don't know. I understand kind of both sides a little bit, but screw this guy. Kick rocks, man. No.
But also, don't you think that if his constituents were upset, that they would mount some type of recall?
I don't know. Again, we're getting into the Republican versus Democratic type of thing, right? So are you going to give up the seat? You know what I mean? The math involved in it all. Also, the fact that I think at some point, especially members of the House, they need to get their ass together. It is getting to be a clown show in there. And there needs to be some sort of bar. It's a very low bar, but a bar that you need to reach in order to be amongst the, people that create friggin' laws in this country. Am I wrong here? Come on.
And you could argue that the longer he's allowed to be a member of Congress, the worse he makes it look. Although...
and it's bad already. I don't know, man. I don't know.
I don't know either, but he's said that he fully expects that he will be expelled from Congress this week.
Bye. Good. But you have to go.
So I don't know. I wouldn't lose sleep if he got expelled this week.
Oh God, no.
But does it set a precedent to say, you need to at least be convicted of a crime, because then anyone could be accused of anything and get tossed out?
But how long does that take? Then I think that if you are facing criminal charges or whatever for something, it needs to move at the speed of light because of the power these people have. It's not like you and me, right? It's not like us. If you are a member of a body of people that are creating laws and taking away rights from people and doing all these things, there are serious implications if we let a stupid freaking case drag out, which they would, in which he could still vote for stuff. Right? So it's not the same as an average person facing charges. I think that there should be, I know you have a right to a speedy trial, but it should be done within a very short amount of time because of the implications of leaving him in office.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there. Let's talk about walking. Get out there and hoof it. That's what you should be doing, because walking is associated with a lower risk of type 2 diabetes. And the speed could determine how much. So walk fast. A new study published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine shows brisk walking is linked to a nearly 40% lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes later in life. Previous studies showed that walking frequently was linked to a lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes, with more time spent walking per day connected to lower risk.
Yeah, that's what I do. I mean, when I go to the gym, I'm not a runner. I've told you guys, I have bad knees, right? But two, I like walking, and I walk. I don't know if I'm not like a step below jogging, but I walk pretty fast. But what I really do is I walk at an incline because that helps as well, and so I'll walk for, maybe 30 minutes or so. And that's my cardio. I hate running. The minute, and it's so funny, I will walk so fast, but the minute I start jogging, which is probably close to the same speed, I'm like, I hate my life. I hate running. I hate it. I hate it. That's like every step I'm like, I hate this. I hate this. I can't get into the zone that runners talk about. I wish I was one of those people like, oh, have you ever experienced the runner's high? No, I've been high, but I've never experienced the runner's high, and I don't know if I like it.
There's a certain leanness to people that run, though. That you can't, I don't know if it's achievable without the running.
It is. They like to, no, don't fool you. That's some propaganda right there. No, you can get leanness. Honestly, running is terrible for you. It really is. It's not good for you.
I'm just saying there's a certain look to a runner's body.
Propaganda. You can get it from walking.
No,
I'm telling you, walking, so. Pilates, stretching. Yes. You
gotta run. It's bad for your knees, though.
It's bad for your joints. It's bad for so many things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love this. Chris is like, running is for prey. Unless there's something chasing me, Chris, I ain't running.
That's a pretty good one, Chris. I'll give you that one. This happened. Look at this fireball in the sky. There's an investigation underway after an explosion at an Ohio auto shop killed 3 people. It happened yesterday at Jimbo's Auto Shop in Hillsboro, east of Cincinnati, Ohio. So large, the flames and smoke could be seen from miles away. The dispatch in Highland County says 3 people were killed in this explosion, 1 injured. The cause of the blast remains under investigation. That was a big one.
Wow.
1 out of every 5 children in the United States under the age of 14 uses melatonin as a sleep aid.
No, don't do it. Don't do it.
That's according to new research out this month from the University of Colorado Boulder. Melatonin is a hormone produced by the brain that regulates the sleep cycle. The American Academy of Sleep Medicine has issued an advisory now asking parents, listen, talk with a pediatrician before you use a hormone long-term in kids. Don't do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those
little
things
sleeping face.
I know.
So cute.
I mean, the joke was, back in my day, we just rubbed some bourbon on their gums and they went to sleep, right? I feel like we need to stop drugging our kids because we need them to sleep, right? Now, I know that melatonin is not the same as bourbon or something like that, but I don't like messing with stuff like that. Sleep is so important. I talk to my husband about it, my kids, because I'm such a light sleeper and I don't get good sleep. If you don't sleep well, everything else starts falling apart. But you can't depend on melatonin because then your body stops producing it on its own, right? And so you have to be very, very careful with it. Unless you definitely need it, don't just give your kids that kind of stuff. It's not good.
Well, I would say giving kids any kind of hormone.
Oh, exactly.
Right?
Absolutely.
Unless you're really talking to a pediatrician and understand what it's doing and why is not a good thing. It's not just a pill that doesn't have a repercussion, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Gas prices have dropped for 61 consecutive days across the United States. Yeah. The average price for a gallon of regular gas stood at $3.25 a gallon on Wednesday. That according to AAA. I know. It's down 5 cents from a week ago and 26 cents from a month ago. That's why I picked the $5 something because let's just be realistic in California, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
And lastly, our friend Taylor Swift, there she is in all her glory. She continues to dominate in 2023. The superstar, singer-songwriter is Spotify's most streamed artist globally for the year. She ends Puerto Rican rapper Bad Bunny's 3-year reign as the world's most listened to artist on the streaming platform. Not anymore, Bad Bunny. Now it's Taylor Swift.
Well, you heard the bad press she's getting, though, right now from Swifties themselves.
What happened?
And I kind of get the criticism. So they're calling her a money grabber. So what she's done is her latest album, 1989, that was just released.
Right.
She released vinyls, but in different colors. Exact same music on it.
Yep.
But with different imaging and colors. But when she releases one, there's only so many, right? Like, let's say there's only 50 or whatever left.
Yeah.
And so everybody tries to snatch them up. And then she releases a purple one. or a yellow one. And so everyone's just kind of done with it. And then, Kim, they're pissed because the streaming of the concert, you can only rent it. You can't buy it. And so
it's like a movie. It's like any movie that first comes to streaming, right? You always have to pay for it for the first month or so.
Well, yeah, or you can rent it. You can rent it or buy it. Some people usually if I want to go on, let's say Prime, I could buy it for a certain price. And that's what I think people want to do. And they're saying, look, why are you charging? And they're saying, don't charge me $19.89 because $19.89 is always her thing. Give it to me for $5. You've made how much money off of us? Mm-hmm. So they're kind of looking at her like every 5 seconds. But do you think, Swifties, that Taylor Swift is setting these prices? No. There is a manager. There is someone behind her trying to get as much money as possible because it's a business.
I don't care if she is behind the prices because listen, Sony, when they release their latest movie, and they're not going to give it to you for $4 just because they feel nice today. They're going to get as much money. Exactly. So why do we feel bad about Sony releasing their latest? Why is that accepted? Oh, it's $19.99 for the latest, version of the brand new streaming of this movie. And then Taylor Swift's movie comes out, and because she's nice, she's supposed to send it to you for $4. Come on. I think, she's a businesswoman and an artist. Give the girl a break.
Millionaire, and so she's smart. They are saying though that the streaming one is going to include 3 songs that wasn't included in the movie version that you saw in the movie theaters, except one song. And they're like, let's just wait. There's going to be another release where you'll be able to get that one song, and it's just maybe the one you buy.
Probably, but remember at her concert, she did with her 3 mystery songs or 2 mystery songs every time.
Yeah, exactly.
And so there's got to be tape of all these mystery songs. Absolutely.
I bet the one that you buy will have all of it. And SF Tesla, we did talk about it yesterday. Beyonce, this is Beyonce's week. Her concert movie is being released on Friday. And Kim, you sent me, I don't know if you have a picture of it handy, but you sent me the story about Beyonce's mom, Tina Knowles. And Mama is not happy. Mama's not happy because I don't know if you saw it. So at the premiere of Beyonce's movie, because before we get to see it, she gets to see it. Her thing is silver. Remember, I was wearing silver. That's her thing with her birthday and everything like that. She's wearing this gorgeous, gorgeous silver dress. And her hair is silver. And people are criticizing Beyonce because they're saying she's trying to look white. Now, Beyonce has always had light skin. Her mom has light skin. This is, it's in her genes. But her mom was pissed. She's like, how dare you try to take away my daughter's blackness, basically, and criticize her for something that's been done by black women throughout history. Having blonde, platinum hair or whatever has been done. There's Beyonce with the platinum hair. That's right. And silver.
They're saying she lightened her skin.
That
she
ridiculous.
Went platinum blonde and lightened her skin for this event.
No. I think that, it sucks when people try to knock successful people down, right? Let her have her friggin' moment, people. She works her ass off. That's what this movie is supposed to show, is how much she worked on this. And, okay, she's cool. I think I never once looked at this picture and was like, she's lightening her skin. She's not that dark. She never has been. So I don't know. I think it's lame. Go Beyonce. The concert was awesome. I'm sure her movie will be amazing, and I hope she knocks it out of the park. I really do.
Look at that dress. Wowzers.
Oh man, she looks gorge. Can you imagine? Yeah. Geez.
No. I can't imagine putting that dress on and looking like that in it.
She's a runner.
Wow. Yeah, she must. No, she doesn't have a runner's body, but she has a beautiful body. She looks gorgeous. If I'm her mom, I can completely understand why her mom is mad. She said, Beyonce is not going to like me coming out and saying this. She said, but I am mad that people would turn around and put a woman like this down. She goes, here she is trying to do her best, and this is what you do. You step on her.
Exactly. It's such BS.
I get that as a mom being mad at it, and I was like, absolutely, go mom.
And also, when you are a parent and you see how hard your child works for something, and then these so-called, I'm not going to say peons, but people have no idea the work that goes into what Beyonce does every day, right? What she does for her concert, for her music. And this is what you're going to criticize her for? Give me a freaking break.
She said, this is just one of the many moments where people have criticized my daughter for not being black enough.
Yeah.
And she said, I'm done with that.
Exactly. It's bull.
Yeah.
It's total B.
Yeah.
And who are you to tell me I'm not black enough? Right? Like, screw you. Like, it's lame. It's lame. It's lame.
Here's another shot of this dress. I
Okay,
mean,
let me see.
it's really pretty.
I mean, she looks gorgeous. And it's
Yeah.
so fun because of the whole silver aspect of it. And, you know, people are just, they always look for something to complain about. She looks amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And it just went with the theme. And people just need to stop. Who cares what color her hair is? She looks amazing. And she worked her ass off for it. So big props to her.
This report is crowdfunded, which means we rely on you, the chitty chat people and the after hours people and all the things. No, find us at the NikkiMedoroShow.com. The NikkiMedoroShow.com is where all the links are to PayPal and Patreon and everything else. And as you've seen, the super stickers open here on YouTube. So our thanks for all the ways you help us with the show. I'm Kim McAllister. This is the Nikki Medoro Show.
It is indeed. It is indeed. All right. I do want to get to this statement real quickly after House Republicans who, again, you know, for a political party that keeps thinking things are being hid behind closed doors, Democrats are not telling you the truth about the election. They're not telling you the truth about Hunter Biden. They're not telling you the truth about anything. They sure as hell don't want the truth in front of the public. Okay. So Hunter Biden, as Kim was reporting yesterday, said he will testify on, December 13th, but he wants it to be public. He wants everyone to hear it. He doesn't want his words twisted because that's the age we live in, right? It's like he says one thing and then they come out and they flat out lie about what he says, or they omit, right? They omit the part where it's not proven or whatever's going to happen. Again, he should testify. I don't see the problem. Well, apparently, Congressman James Comer, head of the Oversight Committee, puts out this statement. It says Hunter Biden is trying to play by his own rules instead of following the rules required of everybody else. That won't stand with House Republicans. Calling Jim Jordan, who has a subpoena on his desk. The statement continues. Our lawfully issued subpoena to Hunter Biden requires him to appear for a deposition on December 13th. We expect full cooperation with our subpoena for a deposition, but also agree that Hunter Biden should have the opportunity to testify in a public setting at a future date. Why? Why do we have to have two different hearings? Why? And I don't trust the fact that they would give him a public hearing either. And House Republicans, why are you not issuing the same statement to friggin' Jim Jordan, who refused his subpoena, who still hundreds of days past it being issued has not answered that subpoena, has not come before the committee. So this is a bunch of BS. It is so BS. I think that they don't want it. I think that it doesn't play for them if Hunter Biden goes out there and cooperates and does all of that, right? It doesn't work for them. They can't do the political spin if Hunter Biden is cooperating. Because God forbid somebody should be an adult in the room and just testify and either face the music or be done with it. That's what I think. I mean, but I don't know how much the public really that cares. Calvin says also Congressman McCarthy refused to comply with the subpoena. Total hypocrites. Absolutely total hypocrites. And just because you brought up McCarthy, Calvin, this was another story I was reading about yesterday and I just didn't put it in the rundown. So Liz Cheney has a book, right? Mm-hmm. And so she's doing the book round. And which I don't know. I don't like political books because, again, I love to read things that make my mind not go.
This one could be good, though.
This one could be good, though.
It's a tell-all.
But there was this moment in the book where she describes the fact that McCarthy went to Mar-a-Lago after the election, after the insurrection, after all of that. And she's like, what the hell, Kevin? And Kevin's like, oh, he was depressed. Trump wasn't eating. So I had to go. She's like, you went to Mar-a-Lago? Like, I think that was probably the moment where Liz Cheney was like, oh, my God, this is the political party I'm part of. Like, I think that it's moments like that where Liz Cheney looks around. And again, I mentioned it earlier this week. This is why politicians, sane ones, are leaving. It's because they're done. It's like you're surrounded by a circus of clowns and they don't want to get anything done. They want to do all these gotcha kind of things. And it's not the work to help the people, to help us. They're not doing it. So, yeah, I think that, you know, between Kevin McCarthy being a complete asshat, you know, there's moments, Kim, where I wish I was a reporter again and I was assigned to cover him just so I could just lose my job and cuss him out. Like, Kevin McCarthy is the biggest disappointment for the state of California that there ever has been. He's done nothing for Bakersfield. He does nothing at all except cover his own ass. I despise Kevin McCarthy is pretty much up there with like McConnell, right? At least McConnell knew the election nonsense was election nonsense, even when it didn't serve his party, right? He even knew how bad Trump was for the country. And that's saying a lot because McCarthy is the worst of the worst. But I swear, Kevin McCarthy, that little weasel, seeing his friggin' face gets my blood boiling. And that's why I don't read political books, because I just get so upset. So Hunter Biden, we'll see what happens on December 13th. But again, it's not going to be public because the House Republicans are obviously too upset. And then like Fox News, oh, what's her face? I forget the woman hosting. She's like, I think he just wants attention, talking about Hunter Biden. He doesn't want attention. He does not want House Republicans to do what they always do, which is, of course, spinning it to make themselves look right or correct and totally ignore the truth. So Congressman Jamie Raskin actually issued a statement after the request to testify public was denied. Raskin says, let me get this straight. After wailing and moaning for 10 months about Hunter Biden and alluding to some vast, unproven family conspiracy, after sending Hunter Biden a subpoena to appear and testify, Chairman Comer and the House Oversight Republicans now reject his offer to appear before the full committee and the eyes of the world and to answer the questions they pose. What an epic humiliation for our colleagues, and what a frank confession they are simply not interested in the facts, have no confidence in their own case or the ability of their own members to pursue it. Raskin goes on to say, after the miserable failure of their impeachment hearing in September, Chairman Comer has now apparently decided to avoid all committee hearings where the public can actually see for itself the logical, rhetorical, and factual contortions they've tied themselves up in. The evidence has shown time and again President Biden has committed no wrongdoing, much less an impeachable offense. Chairman Comer's insistence that Hunter Biden's interview should happen behind closed doors proves it once again. What the Republicans fear most is sunlight and truth. Which, nailed it, Raskin. So, but there's no consequence to Republicans. They know that their supporters only watch like Fox News, which support the idea of not letting the sunshine in, which is just so freaking telling of everything. So there, ladies and gentlemen, is my political bashing of the day. Oh yeah. And Randy, thank you. I was going to mention this at the end of the show. Tomorrow's the day where Newsom and DeSantis are supposed to debate. And there's no debate I would much rather see. I'm totally going to watch it. I'm totally going to watch it. I just put
that in my news. I can't wait to tell you all about it. Yeah.
Okay, good. So we're going to do that. But yeah, I think that it's going to be so much fun to watch. I think that... Did you also see that article about how Hannity and Newsom get along so well?
Mm-hmm.
There's been all of this talk about, that it goes back to him dating Guilfoyle and all, Newsom married to Guilfoyle and all that kind of stuff, and how Newsom would visit Kimberly Guilfoyle at Fox News. I wonder if it's just a show, Hannity getting out there saying, yeah, I like Gavin, and it's going to be an S show on Thursday. But I am so interested to see how both Newsom and DeSantis do. I'm not saying that Newsom's going to get every question right. I just can't imagine DeSantis doing well. That's my whole thing. I just can't imagine him doing well. So we'll see. So that's tomorrow. And then John Rothman now does our political roundup on Friday. So we'll get his take about it as well. That's Friday in the 9:00 hour, right at the start of the show. So it's just going to be fun political, and I'll see if my brain stays in my head for much longer because it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. Okay, let's lighten things up, shall we? And talk about this apparent drug that is out there. A San Francisco company called Loyal has developed a drug, and it's called Loy, LOY-001. And what it would do is make dogs live longer and healthier lives. So apparently it's announced the FDA gave it technical section complete, whatever the hell that means. It means the FDA agrees that the data Loyal provided shows the drug's effectiveness. That doesn't necessarily, it needs to be, obviously peer reviewed and things like that. So they say that they're saying we can't sell the drug yet, You can't ask your vet about it. We still have to finish manufacturing and safety. But the does it work is kind of historically the most challenging and most complex aspect of getting a drug approved. And they say that it does work. They're saying that it's not going to be a rich person's drug, that it'll be in the double digits per month, for the drug, not thousands of dollars. I know I have a lot of pet owners in the audience. Kim included. You have a dog.
Mm-hmm.
Would you give your dog a drug to allow it to live longer?
Okay, so it depends, right? Is my dog going to have an extra few months or an extra year or an extra 2 years and be old and decrepit and look uncomfortable in their body? Or is my dog going to be the youthful dog and healthy and happy and wonderful?
Right. I don't know. I don't know if the drug is only given to dogs that are sick. I think it's more along, at least from the article that I was reading, how Great Danes, they don't live very long. So I think it's to extend their natural lifespan. That's what I think it's supposed to do.
There's too many questions. If your dog is healthy and happy and it just extends their life in a great, leaving them with a quality of life, then I don't have a problem with that. This is a drug that is a cellular generation, is what the sign on their company sign says.
Okay.
So, I mean, is it tampering with cells and genes and things? Perhaps.
Right.
But I don't think I have a problem with that. If you love your dog, what's wrong with making it live longer as long as it's not hurting the animal and causing it stress and pain?
So Vilma asks, the bigger question is, would Nikki give it to Nugget, my dog, if you knew he could live longer? One, my first thing that pops into my head is, okay, this thing is a new drug, even if it is approved. What if it has like a terrible side effect, right? Two, I don't think Nugget is part of the breeds that don't live a long time. I'm anticipating this dog lasting a long time. Knock on wood. If I had a dog that traditionally died after, let's say, 8 years. I mean, that's devastating, right? I mean, 8 years, even sometimes 5 years for some of these really, really big dogs. You're in this,
Really?
not saying that you don't. Yeah, there's dogs that don't live. I think Great Danes don't live very much longer than that. I really don't.
They say sometimes that big dogs, they die sooner. But I have kind of medium to big size dogs. My Siberian Husky lived to almost 15.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. It's not always the case.
Right. I guess nothing is 100%. Yeah. I know somebody that owns or has owned Great Danes. And not only do they have, and that's the other thing. It's like, does it prevent the things that happen as they get older? Right. So I wouldn't want to extend the life of my dog if that means a longer life having seizures, because that's what comes with older age, or tumors, or something that happens once a dog hits a certain age. Now, if it's healthy and it's just like, yeah, you get to enjoy your pup for much longer, I could see the attraction to it. But I know some pet owners, Kim, that don't even vaccinate their dogs. They think that we over-vaccinate our animals, which, whatever. I'm not going to get into the whole vax debate, but they don't want to even add any more more medicine drugs into their animal, because that would be, bad for them in their opinion. Let's see.
Takes all kinds.
Kim says it's SJ Lois says Kim's right. It's all about the quality of life.
Yeah.
Eric says cellular generation. That sounds like a major cancer risk. Not as big an issue in shorter lived species like dogs, but not good in humans. Yeah. A lot of you are saying how long until people start taking it. Oh, that could be bad.
Right.
Vilma says my cat lived indoors for 21 years. Jeez Louise, that's a long time.
This drug, this Loy, LOY's 001, is given in a shot form, so that your dog or cat or whatever has to have a shot every day. The Loy 2, they hope, will be in a pill form, so you just give the dog a pill.
Okay.
But they already have it planned. There's Loy 1, there's Loy 2, there's Loy 3, and they are expected to be coming out with Loy 3 by 2026. You know what? I also want to know more about what the science behind it is. I mean, is it creepy science? Is it like, are we tampering
What is your
with
definition of creepy science?
Tampering with things we really don't understand the ramifications of. When sometimes you change one thing over in one spot and then you don't know over here what's going to happen, right?
True.
So are we doing creepy science where we don't really understand the repercussions of what it is we're doing? Oh, look, our dog lives longer. Oh, look, our dog just grew a third head and they're miserable. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you. Ricky says people suck. We pretend to know what we have no idea about. Leave life and living and dying for nature. But we do it all the time, Ricky, in different ways, right? I mean, medicines, vaccines, all these things are their purpose is to extend our life. If we let nature take its course, we would die much younger, right? So on one hand, I understand it, but at the same time, it's what happens if like, do you have to make a decision to stop giving the shot to your dog? And what does that say, right? Like, if you're like, I have to give my dog this shot so they live longer, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I don't want to give the shot anymore, then you're kind of killing off your dog. You're like, okay, you're done. There's so many like questions of how this would actually work.
If you could eliminate pain,
right,
suffering, and death in the human race and animal species.
Okay.
Would you do it? Is it the way nature intended things to be for there to be some suffering and death in the world?
Yes. Yes.
And for us to kind of renew the planet with fresh life as the cycle of life continues? Or if we could eliminate that suffering and eliminate death and people could go on and on and on, would that be preferable?
No. I don't want. I've said this before. I don't want to live forever. Things start repeating, as we've seen. I feel like it's the yin, the yang, right? It's the light, it's the dark. You need to have, whether you believe in the afterlife, whether you believe in heaven, whatever, right? Some of you don't believe that there's anything after you die. It just lights out, right? But without that opposite, right? I feel like it doesn't make the current. You lose some of the value of the current state that you're in, right? So if I know that I can never die, do I lose the appreciation for things, right? Like, do I, if I know that my kids will live forever, do I not appreciate the time that I have with them? Do I not appreciate the time I have with my family, or anything? I think that you need to have the opposite to really appreciate whatever state that you're currently in. And I wouldn't want to live forever. I want to be healthy. But after a while, don't you think you just get bored? I mean, I think I just get bored. Unless you could stay at the exact same age, so you can. But then I want to know what it's like to be older. I don't want to like be decrepit and in pain and be sick or anything like that. But to understand, to have the wisdom of years. Would you want to? I mean, if you could snap your fingers and everyone could live forever.
Imagine the issue with overpopulation.
On
one hand, the world would be too full of people, and then can we have children to replace everyone if no one ever needs to be replaced?
Oh God, right?
However, one would hope that if someone's 200 years old, they've seen enough living and seen enough of life where they come to a place of wisdom.
Right.
But I don't know, in some cases, maybe if you're an idiot for the first 100 years, you're going to be an idiot for the second 100. Who knows?
Exactly. And I mean, Ricky, I'm not saying my current life bores me, but I also know that my current life is going to end at some point, right? If it doesn't, if you know every day, I could imagine. I mean, we've seen movies. This has been like a focus of a movie before, where it's like you could live forever. Ever see Death Becomes Her? With Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn and Bruce Willis. Funny movie, but they can't die. They live forever, and there is definitely a point where it goes dark, and I think that it would. Even Groundhog's Day, right? Living the same day over and over again. I know that that's the boredom, but I would say that if you lived forever, right, it would be boring because people are creatures of habit, right? And so you just see things and experience things, and I don't know how crazy you can get and how much different things would be. Who knows? But yeah, I don't know as far as my animal if I'd feel comfortable doing that. Leah says, as a veterinarian, I'm worried that the corporate board doesn't have any veterinarians listed or research presented. Concerning. Can one say Theranos? I want more info.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think that that's the whole thing. Taking their word for it, that it works, right? I'm not quite sure that I'm buying that. But, some people might really, really want. You hear about those people buying like the same type of dog, the same cat. And cats are, I'm probably going to insult cat people right now. Cats are easy. You ever hear that? Oh, and Kevin Adler is going to be a little late. He'll be closer to 10:15. So if you have your headlines ready, we'll do those in just a minute. But yeah, with cats, I always feel like they look the same. Like you can pretty much find your exact same cat. You'll hear those stories like, oh my God, it's been 20 years and my cat came home. It's like, nah, dude, that's just a cat that looks like your cat. But I know cat people are like, no, I would know the difference if it was my cat. Okay. I feel like there's so many cats that look like so many other cats. I see golden doodles all the time. I see Nugget all of the time. Like, I mean, not exactly. I think if I looked at my dog, I would know it was my dog, of course. But come on, cats.
I think Lee has a point, though, about the science. Like, what is it they're really selling?
Right.
Bryant calls me out on growing a third head. I believe I begin to wonder after the dog grew the second head. Don't you think? Exactly. Indeed, Brian.
Exactly.
Indeed.
Exactly. Okay. I just checked my email. Kevin's going to be closer to 10:15. So let's do some headlines now so we can have that conversation. Also, kind of in the same realm of being unhoused and trying to find housing for people. Did you see San Francisco Supervisor Asa Safai wants to start busing homeless out of the city? And that's a whole nother thing that I want to talk to Kevin about is just, are we going back to things that we were apparently offended by before, when Republicans in red states were doing it simply because we're looking around and not finding any answers? And what is the answer? Okay, so click the thumbs up button, show your support for the show because it really helps us out here on the YouTubes. And here's Kim with some headlines.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
Yes, indeed. Let's start with our friend GovGav. Here he is, Governor Gavin Newsom. This is the week where California gets thrust back into the national spotlight because Governor Gavin Newsom is taking the debate stage in Georgia tomorrow. He'll face off against Florida Governor Ron DeSantis in a 90-minute showdown about the economy, about immigration and crime.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to it.
Abortion, though, will likely be the most heated topic. Just last year, Governor Newsom ran an ad encouraging people in Florida to move here to California, telling them freedom is under attack in their state. Yep.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. Like and I had this debate. I think I mentioned it before when I was talking to one of my conservative friends, and it really comes down to a simple question. Why should the decision of whether to continue a pregnancy, and we're talking about every single pregnancy, right? It's not just some of them. Why should every single pregnancy, that decision be made by the government? Why should we allow the government a say in that decision? They don't know where we are in life, our socioeconomic status, how many children we already have, our health, nothing. And believe me, the government can't keep track of all of that. So I don't understand why. That is the question. Why should the government be able to make blanket laws on something that is such a personal decision? And I'd love to hear DeSantis's take on that.
Absolutely. Go Bears. Yep. The University of California, Berkeley is facing a lawsuit now. It's accusing the school of failing to stop the spread of anti-Semitism on campus. The Brandeis Center for Human Rights, under law, filed the suit in federal court this week. It claims the court needs to intervene to protect students and faculty and to end anti-Semitic discrimination and harassment. The suit says on-campus displays of hatred, harassment, and physical violence against Jews have erupted since the Palestinian militant group Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th. And it is true that I have read that the dean of the UC Berkeley Law School says he's never seen this type of behavior on campus, that it's ugly and chaotic, and there are things going on that he hasn't seen in his entire career.
Yeah, I think that, and again, because, and Kim, we've both said this many, many times about our ability to be like an expert and talk about, these sort of relations. I just feel like when you're protesting something, that is your right. That does not give you the right to attack or harm people that see things a different way than you. You know, I mean, it just doesn't, especially if they're not hurting anybody, you know? And I was, you know, and I hate it when I start having thoughts that go against or start sounding like too conservative. Not to knock my conservative friends, okay? But, and not saying that I'm always right and you guys are always wrong or anything like that. But this whole idea of like, these liberal colleges are wasting time and they're not educating their students and blah, blah, blah. They're wasting time with the protests. Not that this isn't worthy of protesting. That's not my point. But again, it's just like, are you having the conversations? Are we teaching these kids in college, where a lot of this happens, how to have, you know, critical discussions, you know, how to hear each other? That's what concerns me, is that there's so much yelling, there's so much screaming, and there's not as much listening and communicating and getting what you're really saying across, because I feel like that's where so many things fall apart.
Yeah, it's an ugly situation, but it'll be interesting to see what the judge decides in this case, because how can you, on one hand, protect the students that feel they're being discriminated against, but also, as you say, preserve the right for people to protest in whatever form they want.
Exactly.
You know?
I mean, you're allowed to protest. Just don't harm people. Like, give me a break.
Efforts are underway now to solve the California Highway Patrol staffing shortage. A new class of 112 officers just graduated. They'll hit the roads this week. It's a small dent in filling about 1,000 positions.
Ooh.
Wow. Recruiting started last year after the academy had to shut down during the pandemic. The CHP says it has about 350 cadets in the pipeline. They need to hire a lot more, though, they say, to be fully staffed.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, there is such a, and it's not just obviously the CHP, San Francisco police. They're thinking, I mean, they're going to lose like 50% of their policing. And there's this cop tax that, what was his name? Matt Dorsey is against. It's like this poison pill of this bill that was supported by Mayor London Breed on how to fund more police academies for San Francisco. And it's of course, been devolved into delays and all sorts of things. I do worry a lot, especially for San Francisco, that you're going to be able to police your city of your size without, you know, immediately getting more people on staff, more police officers on staff.
I mean, they're not the only agency suffering from this. You know, this is kind of I would say it's, I don't know if the right word, epidemic across the state, where all these agencies are having the worst time right now.
Yeah.
So,
you know, Randy asked this question, Kim. There's been a lot of demonization of the police. Why would anyone want to become a police officer these days? I understand that thinking, but if you're one of those people that think that there's something wrong with policing, get into it, right? Be one of the people that, like, that's the problem, is that, you know, people that may have nefarious or, you know, terrible ideas of just being in power, having a gun and controlling people, might be getting into policing, instead of people that really want to be the type of police officer there should be, that, you know, treats people fairly and justly, those sorts of things. So while I understand your question, Randy, on the same side, I'd say now is the time. If you want to make a change, get into policing and be the type of police officer you want to see on the street.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Okay, so there's a new fight in California's overdose crisis. Back to GovGav, because he is now proposing tougher penalties for people illegally using an animal tranquilizer known as Tranq.
Oh,
this
Lord.
Drug continues to be found on the street. It is linked to a rising number of deaths across the country. Governor Newsom says his legislation will help the state stay ahead of the curb dealers and traffickers. All facilities have also been alerted on how to keep patients safe. So, Tranq under attack. I don't know if you saw this. This has been going on. A Richmond refinery is now back online after losing power.
Yeah.
Workers burned off gases for more than 10 hours until service was restored yesterday. They had about at least 100 complaints pour in about flaring activity. Now the Bay Area Air Quality Management District is investigating this. A hazmat team checked for toxic air. They say they found no health impacts. The company says it's taking steps to avoid this in the future.
Can you imagine living next to that and seeing that disgusting chemical plume of smoke blanket your friggin' town? I know, and I'm not knocking you if you live in Concord or wherever, but ooh, I wouldn't want to live there. I'm just saying, I wouldn't want to live there. I wouldn't want to live next to a refinery. I used to live next to the freeway. Like, it was literally right behind the sound wall, and it sucked because I knew that was not good. It's not good for the air or anything. It's just going to have higher pollutants in the air because of where you live.
Yeah. This is an interesting story. We'll talk about this case in the North Bay. This is just a general picture of vineyards, not the picture of Paloma Vineyards. But Napa County could be taking nearly 1.5 acres of land from Sonoma County, and Sonoma County would get just 0.02 of an acre of land in return, all to correct a unique issue where the county line cuts right through a winery. In September, the owner of Paloma Vineyard petitioned the Napa County Board of Supervisors to transfer the land. The owner's family's been paying property taxes to Napa County since it got the land in 1983, but a civil engineer says several acres of this 17-acre property are actually in Sonoma County. So their winery, I mean, I guess that's kind of a claim to fame, the only winery in both Sonoma and Napa counties, right?
That's interesting.
I'll show you their website. It's a really pretty, picture of their vineyards. They bill themselves as a Napa County winery, not a Sonoma County winery.
Okay.
So here's their black and white. We'll have to take this one off.
Okay.
Here's what they look like. So that's a pretty vineyard,
Yeah.
Paloma Vineyard and Winery.
Overlooking the Napa Valley.
Yeah. I know.
That's interesting. Well, so like if they make wine on one side versus the other, like who gets the credit or the profit, I guess?
I don't know. I mean, look at that. Beautiful.
I know. Vineyards
It's
are so
really pretty out there. And then it raises property tax questions and all kinds of questions. So I don't know what
that's going to be interesting to follow.
Yeah. It's kind of a cool situation there.
Exactly.
Yesterday we talked about Mark Cuban.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, he's got some things going on. We talked about how he's leaving Shark Tank, right? Well, he's also making some other changes, Mr. Cuban, including selling a majority stake in the NBA's Dallas Mavericks.
Wow. Why?
So all of these changes, why indeed, have people asking questions like, why? He is reiterating that he will not be running for president in 2024. He told NBC News he has no plans to run after speculation this week. Intensified because of all these moves, he making headlines when he said he's not going back to ABC's Shark Tank, and then news this week also about selling the majority stake in the Mavericks. In July, Cuban told NBC News his family would disown him if he ran for the White House. So he says all these moves don't mean that he's running for president. It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Calm down, people. Calm down. Again, and I'm sure he knows, can make way more of an impact when you're not shackled to being a member of the government. I'm sorry, it's true. As a private citizen, you can use your money and you can make decisions that you think are right. You're not beholden to the American public necessarily. I was talking yesterday about how he's trying to, fix big pharma and the pharmaceutical industry. And he's given many interviews about how difficult it is with insurance companies and big pharma and just the collusion and everything going on. So I'm interested if all of these moves have to do with that, because he's really passionate about it. So I wonder, I hope, because he was making, reducing the price of insulin and other types of medication that people need. We'll see what's next for Mr. Cuban there.
Yeah, we will. Lastly, there is a book. I'm trying to bring the book up here. It's called Endgame, and it's by Omid Scobie.
Okay.
And this book is apparently now being pulled from shelves.
Why?
Because it says something it ought not to say. It divulges information that nobody wanted to be made public. Okay, here's what the book looks like.
Okay, let me see.
Here's the book you can't see right now. All right, this is called Endgame.
Endgame, cover to be revealed. Okay.
All right. And so this book about the British royal family is being yanked from shelves after reports that it accidentally revealed the identity of the family member who allegedly questioned Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's son's skin color.
Oh, I mean, come on. It wasn't the Queen?
A statement from the Dutch publisher says it's temporarily withdrawing the book, Omid Scobie's Endgame. PA Media reports a translation error unveiled the family member's identity. The Duchess of Sussex told Oprah Winfrey in 2021's interview that according to Prince Harry, there were concerns and conversations about how dark her son Archie's skin color would be when he was born.
I thought it was the Queen too, Eric. I did too. Liz is saying King Charles.
That's kind of what I thought. Otherwise, why would it be such a big to-do, right? I mean,
I think the Queen would be a bigger to-do, even though, Charles is king. I just, interesting. I mean, if it's the Queen, it's not a big to-do, right, anymore. I mean, she's not here to see it. Charles, does anybody really doubt that? This is my thing. Is anyone going to be surprised?
Exactly.
Is anyone really going to be surprised by this? Who cares? I feel like maybe if you're in Britain and you give a crap, as an American, I could give 2 licks, right? I don't care. It's rude. It's rude to question it. I'm assuming it could be a black mark on your reputation in the country, but really? Did anybody doubt that the monarchy would be questioning the skin tone of somebody in their line? No, not shocked. I mean, so they're going to remove it? Or what are they going to do?
They're pulling it because of this error.
Well, they're just going to edit it out. They're going to release the book, though, still, right?
Well, it's already released. I think they're pulling it from shelves right now.
Who has it? Who has it? So somebody has it already. It's already out there, right?
That's right.
Well, then we know who it's going to be. Like,
but
why
they're
going to
try
if it's already out?
Scoop it back up.
Yeah. Let's see. British media is busy trashing Omid to protect Charles. Oh, so I think a lot of people are thinking like you. Meghan and Harry said on Oprah it was not the Queen. Well, maybe they were lying. Maybe they were protecting the Queen. I don't know. Maybe it was Charles. But again, who's surprised by that?
I mean, there's a lot of insider stuff in this book. I'm looking for the juice on this, but
I know you love this crap too. So I am not one. This is not my, a trashy TV. This is not my choice. I still haven't watched, what is The Crown? I've watched a little, I think the first season, I never got into it. I know you're really into all that stuff, but not me.
Oh, the show The Crown is amazing. Yeah. So I don't know how this person knows all this stuff, but in this book, Scobie says the king is dealing with fallout from his inability to convene and command his own family.
Everyone knew he was going to be ineffectual. Everyone knew that Charles was going to be ineffectual. Like, he has that reputation, right? Just riding his mother's coattails. I mean, look how old he had to be before he took over the monarchy. I'm just not surprised by this. I'm just really not. I think that they're making more of a hoopla about it than was necessary. It's like their Janet Jackson nipple, right? It's like everybody knows. And I think it's stupid. Whatever.
Here's what the book's full title is: Endgame, Inside the Royal Family and the Monarchy's Fight for Survival. And some of the chapters are titled Race and the Royals, Institutional Bigotry and Denial. Another is called The Gloves On, Prince William, Heir to the Throne.
Well, if anybody gets their hands on the book and can prove who it is, let us know.
The pre-edited book, right? The one that they had to yank because they don't want people.
Somebody has it.
Well, the information's out there. We'll track it down.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. This report is crowdfunded, which means we rely on you to help us fund the show. Find us at thenikkimedoroshow.com, thenikkimedoroshow.com. And we thank you for all the ways that you support us. I'm Kim McAllister. This is The Nikki Medoro Show.
Thank you, Kim, for the news update. Okay, I'm really excited about our next guest. I actually spoke to him, I don't know how many years it was, when he was doing Miracle Messages, which is this nonprofit I had talked about earlier, connecting the homeless with their relatives. It's an amazing story. And it's going to continue. There is actually an event tonight that's happening in Scotts Valley. It's sold out. In case you wanted to know, it is sold out, and it's all based on this gentleman's new book, Kevin Adler's new book on homelessness. And let me show you a picture of the book really quickly before we get to him. So it's called When We Walk By. Forgotten Humanity, Broken Systems, and the Role We Can Each Play in Ending Homelessness in America. And I'm excited to welcome Kevin Adler back to the show. Kevin, thank you so much. I talked to you when I was at KGO. I so appreciate you coming on. Congratulations on the book.
Thank you, Nikki. It's good to see you. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear
great?
You are absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
So
got my new setup for the book. You know,
you
I had
look
to look
great.
the whole
Yeah.
thing together. Got the backdrop, right?
You got the whole audio visual thing going on. So I'm stoked for you. Okay. So Kevin, as I mentioned, you have this new book. It deals with homelessness, but I want to really introduce you to people that may not know about your past work or your current work with Miracle Messages. Can you give us a little bit of a brief explanation about what Miracle Messages is and how it actually started? Because the story is amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, thanks for having me. And, my journey on this issue begins about 10 years ago. My uncle Mark was on the streets of Santa Cruz for 30 years. But, I never thought of Mark as a homeless man just because he was a beloved member of my family. And so after he passed away, he was 50 years old, I was on the streets 30 years and passed away. I just started thinking, gosh, everyone I'm walking by, that's someone's son or daughter, exactly. That's someone's brother or sister. And so I spent a year initially just trying to get to know my unhoused neighbors as neighbors, seeing people experiencing homelessness, not as problems to be solved, but as people to be loved. And I did that in I think, fairly non-traditional way where I invited 24 individuals who are unhoused to wear GoPro cameras around their chests and basically narrate their experience of what life is like on the streets. So I watched dozens of hours of footage. And it was heartbreaking, and in one of the clips, I heard someone say something that changed my life. He said, I never realized I was homeless when I lost my housing, only when I lost my family and friends. And that angle of what I've come to call relational poverty as a form of poverty, isolation, loneliness, disconnection, and then often accompanied by a stigma and shame. It's actually one of the most common facets of homelessness, in addition to a lack of stable housing. And so the work we do at Miracle Messages is directly focused on tackling relational poverty. We offer 3 programs. There's family and friend reunification services, helping people reconnect to their long lost loved ones. We have a phone buddy program with volunteers around the world, 30 minutes a week, 1-to-1, kind of like a Big Brothers, Big Sisters program. And then we have launched one of the first basic income pilots for unhoused individuals in the United States.
That is amazing. And what you talked about with the, losing the family members, losing the friends, the reason why that's so devastating to people is there's nobody looking for you anymore, right? There's nobody to call if you are ready to get off the streets. There's nobody to do anything like that. And so then you depend on social services or the lack thereof. So let's get into your book. And again, your book is called When We Walk By. Did this come from your work from Miracle Messages?
It did. Having done this work now for the last decade, I feel like I've had a front row seat to both the transformation that can happen from relatively small acts in people's lives, as well as the patterns that start emerging from story after story. You can't help but hear the through lines when person after person is talking about, well, they had a health crisis, and that health crisis led to them not being able to work, and not being able to work led to them not being able to afford an apartment, which led to them getting evicted, which led to them in a shelter. You'd hear these through lines that are kind of not centered in the narrative around homelessness. I think in the US, we have almost ingrained in us from the water of this idea of rugged individualism, individual responsibility, self-made man and woman, right? And if that's the case, if we take that to its fullest extent, if someone is poor, let alone homeless in this country, does that mean they're self-failed? Are they deservedly poor? So obviously, when you articulate it, it's like, no, like that's not the case at all. And yet there's these, I think, hidden us versus them narrative around homelessness, where we have created this group called the homeless. We would never talk about ourselves as the housed.
Right.
And we've defined mother with a child escaping a domestic violence situation, someone with a health issue, someone who has a substance abuse issue or a mental health issue, LGBTQ youth escaping an unsafe family situation. And we've grouped all of them together into this clump of the homeless. And it actually, I think, is part of the problem where we aren't seeing the progress on this issue. We're spending millions and millions of dollars a year in each city and making very little progress as people are dying on the streets. But, as dour and downcast as that can sound, I feel more hopeful on this issue than I did 10 years ago. I've
Really?
seen people get off the streets, stay off the streets, have their lives transformed. And so, my hope in this book was really to write a trade book, like a general public book on homelessness. But really, it's not just homelessness. It's about us as housed people. It's when we walk by. It's about our relationship with our unhoused neighbors.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that. As a housed person, you're a housed
Yes.
person.
Yep.
I walk by homeless encampments. I drive by homeless encampments.
Yeah.
I think I experience emotions many people feel. I'm frustrated. I try my best to see them as people. There was a homeless encampment that used to be along a freeway that I would drive every single day. And I had to do something, and I kept contacting Caltrans, like, you need to find these people housing. It takes one accident and you've wiped out 20 people,
Yeah.
right? Like, we need to get these people safe. We need to get these people housed. When I walk by, when people that are watching the show right now, when they walk by, what should we be doing? What should we be thinking? What should we be saying? What is the advice for us so that we don't just see these as a group of people that are homeless and start seeing them as people?
Yeah, it's a great question. And what I'd say is, first, the folks we see as people experiencing homelessness are actually a fraction, a large, but still not majority of people who are actually experiencing homelessness. So in the US, we have about 600,000 people experiencing homelessness on any given night. And of those individuals, maybe about 40% are unsheltered. And then that means, 60% are sheltered. So perhaps in shelters, there's also an invisible homelessness, folks doubled up, tripled up in cars and trying to blend in. So, to talk about what we're seeing as a unsheltered, often individual and often chronic homeless, which is a subset of the entire homeless population. This book is not meant to make people think, well, now I can't walk by. When I stop by every single
Cover my
person
eyes. I
is-
can't do anything, right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's really to take a few things is to be a little bit more, conscious of what's going on. Did you walk by because you're running late for work, a meeting a friend? Did you purposefully walk by or walk to the other side of the street because you feel uncomfortable? If you felt uncomfortable, why? Is it saying doing, acting? Is it daylight? Are you by yourself? If you're wanting to engage, what I often do is I just go up, I say, hi, how are you? My name is Kevin. What's your name? And how long have you lived in the area? And then again, like misnomer on homelessness, about 70% of the people who are experiencing homelessness in the Bay Area were once housed in the Bay Area, are from the Bay Area. And 90% of the people who are homeless in California are from California, were housed in California.
Yeah.
So just having a conversation as you might with a neighbor. And that neighbor is likely going through a level of trauma and suffering, being unsheltered, but they're still our neighbors. I find socks to be a really good conversation starter.
To offer them to them.
Number one requested item on the streets. We partner with Bombas. We have donation socks that have antimicrobial properties, and they can be worn days or weeks at a time, inclement
nice.
weather. We have our hotline cards. So those are available on our website, miraclemessages.org. And that number, which is pretty easy to remember, it's 1-800-MISS-YOU. So if
MISSYOU.
we own a 1-800-MISS-YOU phone number. And so if a individual experiencing homelessness wants to reconnect to a loved one, or a staff member, caseworker, volunteer acting on their behalf wants to help them reconnect, or just have a friend. We all need somebody to lean on, as the famous Bill Withers song says.
Right.
So anyone can offer those services. And then, if you're not comfortable walking up to a person experiencing homelessness in your community, we right now are in desperate need of more volunteers in our Phone Buddy program. We have a waiting list of unhoused individuals who have courageously raised their hand and said, I need someone to talk to. Like, I can't go through this alone. And just having someone who's not a caseworker or paid government employee just to listen to talk to. And we in our Phone Buddy programs, 20 minutes, 30 minutes a week, we provide all the training, the support. There's a call log. If there's an issue that you can't deal with, you can flag it. Someone will follow up, and we can even give you a phone number through a partnership we have with DialPad. We use Google Voice, so you don't have to use your device phone number. But we have a wait list right now of unhoused individuals, and really would love to have more volunteers with that. So those are a few ways.
I love that idea. Yeah, that you're giving people action things that they can do. Well, and I know I don't have you forever, but what do we get? And I know this is going to be a big question. What are we doing wrong? And when I say we, I mean and I'm sure you've heard the phrase, the homeless industrial complex, right? All of these nonprofits, all of these organizations. I've started to think, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there's so many different people and groups trying to do so many different things to help homelessness that the money is diluted so much that they can't be successful, if that makes sense. So what are we doing wrong? If you were in charge, what are we doing wrong? And what needs to change so that we can actually make a dent in this huge problem?
Yeah, and it's a great question. There's a few elements of it. So homelessness, as we think about it, it's often, so I'll say this: homeless service providers, homeless nonprofits do not cause homelessness.
Right.
So I think that's an important starting point, because right now, for every one person that gets off the streets in San Francisco, for instance, there's another 3 or 4 people who end up on the streets. We're living in a nation right now where 1 out of every 2 Americans are a paycheck away from not being able to pay rent. Where 47% of people self-report not knowing where they get $400 for an unexpected emergency. And when you hear those numbers, it's actually surprising that there's not more people experiencing homelessness. And what, as an aside, what we attribute that to: family, friends, community, church, synagogue, mosque, informal economy, like relationships, social capital. So I think that's a starting point. I also think there's merit to the critique. We have spent billions of dollars at this point on this issue and have very little to show for it. There's a few exceptions. There's a few communities where homelessness has declined. Veterans homelessness nationwide, went down quite a bit during the Obama presidency. We know we can solve this issue. It's not a fact of life. It shouldn't be. I think the critique that I'd have around, homeless services and homeless industrial complex narrative, there's a lack of coordination. That's often the case. It's very siloed. I think there's also it's almost by the size of the problem, it's very top down. Here's the one size fits all
Right.
shelter. Here's the program. Here's the thing. And the problem is, like, you have 600,000 people on the streets or experiencing homelessness every given night. That's 600,000 stories, contexts, reasons, causes. And there's themes, but there's very little efforts to meet people where they're at. And the last piece I'd say is, we're right now spending somewhere in the vicinity of $40,000 to $80,000 per person per year to maintain someone on the streets. And that's in police, fire, emergency services, sanitation, shelter. And it's even more than that for folks who are high utilizers of the emergency department. So given that number, we created one of the first basic income pilots for unhoused individuals in the country. Gave $500 a month for 6 months, 14 individuals. 6 months later, 2/3 of those individuals in that very small sample size secured stable housing.
Wow.
They used the money better than I could have used it for them. So I think that other piece I'd mention is investing in our unhoused neighbors as neighbors. having faith and trust and working together. Like, who knows better than you what you and your family need?
Yeah.
And of course, for folks who may be in deep throes of substance abuse or have a severe untreated mental health issue, you don't want to do more harm than good. So I'm not saying a blanket, basic income for everybody, but I have found that targeted cash investments, giving people money, helping to support them, that can really move the needle as well.
And finally, and I mean, I could keep you for hours. And again, Kevin has an event tonight in Scotts Valley, but you have one in Sausalito, and I'm just going to show the banner that's not sold out tomorrow.
That's right.
So go to SausalitoBooksByTheBay.com. There's the long thing that they just go there, look up Kevin Adler.
Yeah.
And so, but the last one, just because I have to ask, can we really get a hold of homelessness when we talk about one paycheck away? If we don't talk about housing prices? If we don't talk about the fact that people don't want to build housing, right? I mean, San Francisco's seeing it right now, missing out possibly on funds for affordable housing because they are not building it quick enough. Can we build ourselves out of our homeless problem, do you think?
Well, we have to build a lot more housing to have any shot at solving homelessness. The work that I do at Miracle Messages, it's not a silver bullet by any means. Relational poverty is poverty, but poverty is poverty as well.
Right.
Housing instability is poverty. And in the book, the way it's organized, the first section is really on breakdowns and shortcomings in our shared humanity. So relational poverty, stigma, shame, rugged individualism, exclusion, where many cities make it illegal to be homeless and perpetuate this us versus them, anti-camping, anti-sleeping, anti-loitering. You cannot live as a human being and be experiencing homelessness legally without breaking the law.
Of course.
But the other half of the book, or the next third of the book, is really around broken systems, and we look at housing first. Costs. There's in the United States over 3,000 counties. There's not a single county where a person who's working full time at a minimum wage job can afford the median price for a 2-bedroom apartment. And less than 1% of counties where that same person working full-time minimum wage job can afford a 1-bedroom apartment. So we have a massive housing crisis. We have a massive crisis in our criminal justice system, where there is a revolving door between homelessness and incarceration. We could look at healthcare, behavioral health, mental health, housed and unhoused alike is at a crisis mode. And foster care. We don't talk as much about foster care, but for children, young people who age out of the foster care system, 1 in 3 will experience homelessness by the time they're 26. And that number shoots up to 60% for Black young people who age out of foster care will experience homelessness by 26. So there's an intersectionality to homelessness that doesn't get talked about. But I think the only way we're going to care enough to then take action on those systems and to really fight the good fight, to welcome housing into our community, and to realize that once our unhoused neighbors are housed, they're no longer our unhoused neighbors. They're now just our neighbors.
Exactly.
We have to start with the hearts and minds and how we see our unhoused neighbors as people.
Kevin Adler, he works with Miracle Messages. Look him up at miraclemessages.com as well. When We Walk By is his book. Tonight in Scotts Valley, the event where they'll be talking about it is sold out. Go to SausalitoBooksByTheBay.com if you want tickets to tomorrow night's event. I'm just going to say this, Kevin. I don't know if you're doing an audiobook of that, but you should, because I can listen to you talk all the time. You have a very soothing voice.
Well, my next career as a voice actor. Yeah, we actually, I had to audition for my own audio.
Oh, are you kidding me?
No, they had me audition.
Did you get it?
I got the job. So yeah, I narrate the audiobook. So if you like what you're hearing, not just the content, but the vocal intonations, check out whenwewalkby.com for the audio. Yeah.
I love it.
We'll be back after the break.
Exactly. Well, Kevin, I want you to come back. Please. The door is always open. Yeah. I would love to talk to you about this issue because, again, this is one of the main things we talk about a lot on this show. And I appreciate your work. Keep up the good fight. And let's talk again real soon. Kevin Adler.
Great to see you. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. So that's Kevin Adler. I mean, Kim, he's just, the work that he does is amazing. And again, the story of how Miracle Messages started, it's just That's the type of person that's doing the work, right? Not just that, but actually getting out there and talking to these people. So
It's
again,
such
check them out.
Different way of thinking about homeless people, because when you first start working in San Francisco, this let me just say, this is my personal experience. When I first started working in San Francisco, you learn very quickly, avoid eye contact.
Right.
Don't look at people. Don't look at homeless people. They'll, walk by quickly. Get yourself to safety, right? And so what a different experience to then stop, say your name, ask
Who
how they
you?
are.
Yeah.
Treat them like people instead of
Exactly.
just trying to get by unscathed, right? Because sometimes in San Francisco, it's not somebody who wants to have a conversation with you. It's somebody who's hollering and yelling and babbling incoherently on a street corner. And so I like the way he approaches it. And I have, there's regrets for the way that maybe I handled it as I'm trying to get from story to story and covering thing to thing,
But I think that it's natural to do. I think that what you do is what most people instinctually do. If somebody is acting in a way that makes you uncomfortable, you're supposed to remove yourself from that situation. You're not supposed to step into the situation, right? And that's what Kevin was doing, is he was trying to treat and specifically in his own neighborhood. I mean, how many people know the homeless person that's always on the same street corner, right? Like, you know that person, you walk by that person.
Yeah.
At some point, you could, and I'm not going to ask people to do something that they don't feel safe doing, of course, but they are your neighbor. When you talk about, oh my God, what are the homeless doing in this neighborhood? It's their neighborhood too. And I think that that's what we don't see, is like they're homeless. And so they're not worthy of being considered when we make decisions, when we vote on things. And they should be, because they are part of our community, whether they're in a tent, whether they're just laying on the ground, or whether they're housed in their car or in an actual house.
But I would consider myself a kind person, a nice person. And I care about people. So why didn't I make eye contact? Why didn't I stop and
because
say hello?
Because it was 4 o'clock in the friggin' morning, probably, and you didn't feel safe, and you're a woman, and there are valid reasons for that, Kim. And I'm not going to, again, I am not going to promote necessarily putting yourself in a situation, especially by yourself. And, I love what Kevin does. Again, that story of him connecting the homeless with family, and that relational importance, having somebody that's looking for you, that cares about you, that can help you get a job, that can give you a roof for a night or a week or a year. That's so important. And the work that he does is great. But again, I think Kevin was also giving us different types of tools to what we feel comfortable in. I think also one of them is being a voice to not group every homeless person in the same situation. Remember, before I brought him on, I was talking about, abortion rights and how every single pregnancy is different, because every single family is different.
That's right.
And we should treat the homeless kind of in the same way. It's like, how can we make a judgment on such a large group of people when we know intellectually every situation is so different? And so I think it's the compassion and the empathy that we need.
And Lulu writes, she says, I looked at someone yesterday and they threw a beer bottle at me in Mendocino County. So you're right. Every situation is different. You don't know if it's going to be the person who throws the bottle, or you don't know if it's the person who you're going to have this life-changing conversation with.
Yeah, I know. It's like, again, I think, there's a lot that we can do. I had mentioned before we brought Kevin Adler on, and let me just throw up the banner again, because again, I think if you can make it, and if you're in the Sausalito area, go to sausalitobooksbythebay.com and just look up Kevin Adler. He's one of the events, and it's tomorrow, and it's not yet sold out. Tonight's in Scotts Valley is, but I mean, and the reason why I was bringing up how he talks, not only is it soothing, but the whole night, the night is going to be a conversation, very, not formal, just a very lighthearted, but in-depth conversation about what we can do to help the unhoused, right? And understand and understand that. But it's the problem that I also see is that there are ideas that are immediately shuffled away, right? Like some people don't want any more high density housing. Some people don't want a homeless shelter in their neighborhood. And when we have these absolutes that we say no to, then we're just a speed bump, or we're a wall against progress. Randy says, how do I, as someone walking past a homeless encampment, step into the situation? I mean, I was speaking literally like Kevin does, right? He literally acknowledges the people that he walks by. He asks them their name. He asks them how they're doing, if you felt comfortable doing something like that. And the reason why I say that, and I think that Kevin says that, is then you stop seeing them as this blob on the street of garbage in a tent. You see them, there's Larry, or there's Sarah. I talked to them. There was somebody in the comments earlier saying, I give $20 or whatever to this homeless woman that lives on the street, and she's always grateful. They start becoming a human being. They start becoming your neighbor. And that's important, because when you see people as people and not just this problem, then the way you vote and what you fund and what you support and the conversations that you have with people can change. It just does something like that,
RJ says human dignity is free to give, and nearly everyone is worthy of it. Hear, hear.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, and correct me if you think this is not correct, but correct. How many times can I say correct? But if sometimes I think we collectively look at homeless people and we think, I don't want what they have. Like,
of course not. Who wants to be homeless?
There's a reason they're homeless. And whatever they did it wrong. And I don't want to end up like that. So I'm just going to steer clear of that problem. I'm just going to separate myself and remove myself and get as far away from them as I can, because I'm not like them. I don't want to be like them. I don't want to make the same mistakes as them. And they're not worthy of my time because they screwed it up.
Yeah. But at the same time, like what Kevin had said, is so many people are a paycheck away from it. You could be
100%.
talking to somebody in the comments box and they're a paycheck away from it. So it's not as if you can't be them tomorrow.
I'm a paycheck away from it.
That's exactly right. Exactly.
I mean, come on.
It's one of those things, especially living here. And that's why, again, I wish I could go tonight to Scotts Valley, because I'll definitely be getting that book. It's one of those things where it's like, it feels like such a big problem that how can I make a difference? Right. And it seems like a big problem because we know how expensive it is to live in an area like the Bay Area. Yeah. It's kind of shocking that so many of us judge the homeless when we know how hard it is to make ends meet in this area. Right. And we know how hard it is. We know that being part of the 1%, and I loved the bumper sticker. I forget who posted it, like, make the 1% homeless. So here it is, to save the 99%. Which, when you think about it, I don't want anyone to be homeless. I just want everyone to be housed. And it is kind of gross when, 1% controls so much of this world's wealth. And there's still so many people living on the streets. But it can feel overwhelming. But we have to do something. And that will require us to change what we think our neighborhood should look like. We need to, and we do. And I know that pisses some of you off when I say that all the time. But you don't have a God-given right to always live in a single-family home neighborhood. You don't. You don't, when there are people suffering on the streets and you could still be housed. You don't get to dictate a different housing situation for other people simply because you like your housing situation. We just don't live in that society anymore. It's changed. And that could be a hard pill for so many people to swallow, but I would much rather, honestly, and I know it sucks, but I'd rather deal with more traffic than to deal with more tents. I would.
Randy's looking still at the big picture and not at the small picture, which is, I think, what that conversation was about. He says, if I stop and ask someone's name, maybe talk to them, I've still not done anything to solve that person's homeless issue. But what you've done is you've seen them as a person, and you're starting to change your ideas, right? About who they are and what's, that it's us versus them, right?
Right.
So you're starting to see it differently and to take a more humanistic approach. Yeah. And I think that's what he was talking about is, changing our mindset is changing how we deal with it. Because right now, it's them in a homeless encampment that we can go to sleep at night because we're not them.
Right.
Well, if they're our friends and we get to know them, and if you just talk to that guy, Randy, down at the homeless encampment, and then you're laying your head down on your fluffy pillow at night, you're thinking, God, I just talked to this guy named Larry down at the homeless encampment, and I'm feeling really bad. It's raining tonight, and gosh, I wonder if he's all right. And the next thing you know, you got a blanket in your car, and the next day you see him, you're giving the blanket. I mean, it's just about treating people with kindness. So it's that changing of the mindset. Have you affected his homelessness? No,
maybe not though. Maybe the conversation makes him be like, I'm tired of this and seeking, some sort of service, which a lot of homeless people may not want to. You don't know the impact that you're going to have on somebody. We hear those stories all the time. Oh, somebody said hi, somebody did this, and I decided not to do something terrible, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't know the butterfly effect, as it's often called, from little gestures, little moments with people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would not just throw that away. I would say, if you were a person where nobody made eye contact with you for months and then somebody looked at you and saw you, said hi to you, that could be life-changing.
And if we all took that moment to do that, then our perspective on homelessness might change, and our attitude about how to fix it might change. I think that was kind of the point, right? Yeah.
Angel says, I also talked to many strangers as I assisted my church for 5 years, feeding the unhoused, shuffling families 3 days a week in Oakland. They're worth talking to. And then Phineas brings up something that I think a lot of us validly think about. Nikki, there's then the opposite side of the problem or issue where you have fake panhandlers taking advantage of your generosity. Yes, but I will also say this, Phineas. I know that I would much rather help a lot of people and understand that there's going to be a percentage of them that are gaming the system or whatever than not help anybody at all. Right? I mean, it's kind of like, do we just throw everyone out because we know that there's going to be a certain percentage? And I don't know if it's a large or a small or whatever. It's a visible one, right? That it is scamming people. I get it. But I'd rather be scammed and still know that I'm helping some people than not help anybody at all.
Mm-hmm.
Blue Sparks has been confronted by loonies who I assume are on drugs, but never by anyone who's just homeless. Anyone remember Jesus Man in San Jose? Wanted to be left alone, but was obviously dangerously destitute. Again, I think a lot of the words that you even used in that sentence, and you're and I'm not trying to invalidate people's emotions here because it's a very emotional issue. But again, loony, right? Like, do we know the person's situation? Dangerously destitute. Those things could be right or they could be wrong, but until you know that person, like, what was that person's name? What was their situation? What led them to be there? Which is the work that Kevin is doing, I think makes all the difference, right? But again, if it gives you pause to give money to people, I 100% agree. Do what Kevin was offering. Go to miraclemessages.com, sign up to answer the phones, and they set it up so you don't even have to give away, your personal cell phone number or anything like that. Give socks. Number one thing that people want that are homeless, socks. Go buy a bunch. Go to Costco. People are doing their holiday shopping, going to Costco, buy a bunch of socks. And believe me, they sell them in big bundles. Hand them out to people. They're done. You don't have to worry that they're buying drugs with it. I mean, I guess they could trade it for money. I don't know. But, I think you've done your due diligence by giving socks and not money. And do that. It's just, there are things that we can do. And yeah, I just loved talking to him. I hope that you guys really enjoyed the conversation.
I did very much. Ricky O'Bear, but being kind is so expensive.
It costs so much to just give a smile and a hello to people.
I was thinking about it last night. I don't know about where you were or in San Jose, but it was pouring rain last night in the North
I didn't
Bay.
hear it. It was on my car this morning as evidence, but yeah, it was rain. And think about that.
Yeah.
Think about that. If you had to sleep on the street in that, right? Give people, if you have an extra umbrella, right? I always buy too many umbrellas because the kids keep losing them, right? So if you have an extra one, give one. If there's an extra tarp, I know, TV stations and stuff do the coat drives. Donate to those. Those things are things that you can do that will directly help people. Yeah. And if you can't give money, there's always enough stuff for people to give. We have so much stuff. Okay, that's our show. We didn't get to a lot of things today. I've been trying to get to lighthearted stuff as well. Although I loved this, I really, really did. I'll pull the interview and I'll separate it so you guys can listen to it again and share it with people in your lives because Kevin Adler is doing God's work. And whether you believe in God or not, he's just doing amazing, amazing work. And so I just appreciate it. So maybe we'll talk about movies tomorrow. Maybe we'll save it for Friday. But tomorrow night is the debate between Newsom and DeSantis. So. It's also going to conflict Kim McAllister with the Golden Bachelor finale. Like, what kind of nonsense do I want to really watch? But I think the debate will probably be earlier in the evening, but I'll definitely be watching that. We'll follow a bunch of things, of course. But before we go, you guys, please click the thumbs up button, show your support for the show. I do want to say thank you to people that donated to our super chat. Where did my comment? Oh, I lost them. If Kim, you still have them up, I don't have them up because I had to refresh my screen. So I lost everybody that donated to our super chat. But thank you to everybody that did it. Do you still have them up?
Let me look. Hold on.
I love to give my thank yous. Also, while she looks for that, please donate to our monthly Patreon. I hate begging, but I will because we need it to survive. TheNikkiMedoroShow.com. The Patreon link is there. If you could be a one-time sign-upper and then be a monthly subscriber, that'd be great. If you can afford a few bucks more a month, we'd appreciate that as well. So just go to TheNikkiMedoroShow.com. Find the Patreon link. PayPal takes the least from us for your donation. So if you want to PayPal us, it's easier to just go to paypal.com and put in the show email address after you hit send. TheNikkiMedoroShow@gmail.com. TheNikkiMedoroShow@gmail.com. It's also where you can reach me if you have questions, if you have things you want me to try, to cook, to read, whatever. TheNikkiMedoroShow@gmail.com. Our merch site has a lot of fun new things on it at TheNikkiMedoroShop.com. And please go in the show notes and check out the list of favorite things. I keep adding to it. If you're looking for some unique holiday gifts or things that I recommend, the link to my link tree is right there as well. Did you have? Oh, Angel by the Bay, thank you so much for the $10 donation. You are awesome, awesome, awesome. Do you have any of the other ones? I lost them all.
I have this one.
Okay, thank you, John, for the $10 donation. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And
Are you
we
just
have
scrolling?
this one.
You're so funny. Doug with a $5 donation. I love you, Doug.
And we
Thank
have
you.
this one.
Harry working from home on Wednesday with a $5 donation. Tell your boss to stop making you go into the office because that sucks. I know there was somebody else. I think it was Jim that started us off first with the show. So I believe it was Jim that was the first one to come in. So thank you, Jim, for that as well.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, you guys, I love you so much. Stay right here. Mark Thompson is next. And then, of course, the after party with Kim McAllister and John Daly's right after that. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. You're proud, like a beautiful blossom. You're also the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.